Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it is your first time here. My name is Jess. I usually upload videos a couple of times a week, a mixture of bookish and lifestyle content. I have just had a 2 or 3 week break. I was filming and uploading twice a week in September, and I've just had a bit of a break, but now I am back. And for today's video, what I want to talk about is some books that I would consider to be great books, but which for whatever reason I don't talk about that much. Now I'm not saying that I have never talked about them on the channel, but I just don't talk about them that much. There seems to be certain books which just come up time and again. Either they fit the categories for the particular video that I'm doing, or I just tend to recommend them more. But there are plenty of fantastic books that I have read over the years that I just don't seem to reach for in those videos, so I picked a few of those out. I had a look at my shelves. I thought about books that I hadn't talked about so much. That doesn't mean that I've never talked about them on the channel, just that they're not as common, and I'm going to recommend them to you today. So without further ado, let's jump in. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Dovekeepers by Alice Hoffman, and this is historical fiction. It's the only Alice Hoffman book that I have ever read, and I believe that it is a slight diversion from the usual genre of book that Alice Hoffman writes, but it's the only one that I've ever read, so I've got nothing to compare it against. So as I said, this is historical fiction. It takes place in 70 CE and is based in Masada. I think you say Masada or Masada. Please correct me in the comments if I am saying it wrong. Prior to picking this book up, I didn't know anything about Masada, but it is the place where it's a mountain village where over 900 Jews held out against the advancing Roman army for months before making the horrific decision to take their own lives rather than be conquered and killed. And I think there were only a small handful of survivors, and in this particular book we follow 4 women who have fled from various places and ended up in Masada, and these 4 women become the Dovekeepers, and so we're following the build up until the very end of the Jewish community in Masada. So we have these 4 women who are all from very different backgrounds, very different lives. We have the Witch of Moab, we have a baker's wife, we have a warrior's daughter who has been raised as a boy, and we have an assassin's daughter as well. And the lives of these fierce women all intersect in this story, and we watch it play out, and it is haunting, and it is beautiful, and it is moving, and Alice Hoffman just does a really great job of not only bringing this story, which was previously unknown to me, as I've said, to life, but also just shining a light on these 4 women as well. I just think that it's fantastic. I'm definitely sure that I've mentioned it on the channel before, but if you have ever considered picking it up, I would highly recommend it. As I said, it is beautifully told. I think Alice Hoffman does an excellent job, and I would highly recommend it. Another historical fiction book now, we have The Island by Victoria Hislop. This was another book which absolutely hit me in the feels. We follow 4 generations of women, and it centres around the Greek island of Spinalonga, which was a former leper colony, particularly during the Second World War. And this book follows, as I say, various different time periods, but the main kind of focus is on the community of Spinalonga, how they were treated, how they were separated from family, what they had to do in order to build a life basically from scratch after they had been cast out to the island. And leprosy is one of those things that I didn't know that much about before reading the book, other than it being a biblical illness, and this book does a really good job again of shining a light on something that was previously unknown for me, and it is full of all the classic kind of historical drama, things that you would expect. There is love and betrayal, tragedy, loyalty, courage, just so much stuffed into this book. And I don't remember a lot of specifics because it's been quite a while since I've read this book, but I just recall it feeling really authentic, and again being an incredibly moving read, and one that I would definitely recommend. Now, a book that I know I've talked about previously, but I wanted to highlight it because I think that it is a fantastic quartet of books. I don't recommend it nearly enough, and it's been a long time since I've read it, and I definitely want to do a reread in the future because I remember at the time when I read it, it was just super impactful. So the first book is Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. This is probably a series of books that is not unfamiliar if you are a presence in the book community, but as I said, I really just wanted to highlight it because it's not something I talk about hugely, but it is a series that I would highly recommend. So we are following two characters predominantly. We have Callum, who is a nought, and we have Seffi, who is a cross. And noughts in this dystopian world that Mallory Blackman has created are second class citizens, and basically we have black and we have white, and black is right and white is wrong, and Callum and Seffi fall in love, and that is just a huge no-no. And then a huge thing occurs. I don't really want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, and the story just kind of explodes and takes off from there. I would highly recommend it, although it comes across a little bit Romeo and Juliet, a romance story that really begins to take a backseat as the story progresses. And it's just an incredibly dramatic and gripping and absorbing set of stories that will just blow you away. So highly recommend. And then I'm going to mention an author who is an author by author for me, but I used to talk about her books an awful lot when I first started my channel, and then it kind of dropped off. She doesn't release books that often, and I think that's the reason why, but I just kind of want to highlight her books again, particularly if you like family saga, dual timeline novels. Then I think she will tick all the boxes for you. And I've pulled out Kate Morton, The Distant Hours, because this is one of the ones that really sticks in my mind. It's not the first Kate Morton book that I read. I have read and loved all hers, bar I think her latest one, The Clockmaker's Daughter, I didn't love as much, but they are just great books. As I say, if you like family secrets, family drama, if you like dual timeline, then you will probably love Kate Morton's books, and they have rich character story arcs and character development, and they are just very good. So we're following a more present day story with a woman called Edie, and one day a letter arrives addressed to Edie's mother, and the return address is for a place called, I'm going to read it off the back so I don't get it wrong, Milderhurst Castle, and it sets Edie, the arrival of this letter sets Edie off on a journey to uncover her mother's past. Now, she's never been very close to her mother, and this gives her an opportunity to find out more about who she was. And then flashback to the past timeline, we have Edie's mother as a 13-year-old being evacuated, and she is taken in by the Blythe sisters. And we begin to discover more about those sisters. They still live in Milderhurst Castle. We have twins, and we have a sister called Juniper, who was apparently driven mad by the abandonment of her by her fiance. But we begin to discover, as with most of Kate Morton's books, that there is more to the story than meets the eye. And Kate Morton just has a way of writing that takes you on a journey. I mean, within this book there are dark family secrets, there are twists and turns, we have betrayals, we have drama, but it is just on the whole a very atmospheric and beautifully told story, and I would not hesitate to recommend it. I don't recommend Kate Morton's books enough these days, so I definitely wanted to put this one on the list. But honestly, I could recommend any of them. I would say that they probably feel a little bit formulaic once you've read one or two, because they generally tend to have the dual timeline aspect, but they tick the box for me, so I would definitely say if you are interested, pick it up. Okay, and for the final book, I'm going to attempt to summarise a book that I read many years ago. Often think about talking about, and then think, I know that I loved it, but I don't remember enough about it to talk about it. But it's going to feature on this list, so bear with me. So I'm going to recommend The Rule of Four by Ian Caldwell and Dustin Thomason, and I picked this up after reading and enjoying The Da Vinci Code, and this is blurbed as being the Da Vinci Code for people with brains, and that is an independent review that said that. And so I picked it up and I really enjoyed it, but it was so many years ago that I'm struggling for the finer details of why I enjoyed it, so I'm just going to give a really brief summary. But it's certainly a book that I have probably never seen anyone talk about in the book community. If you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I read and reviewed this and recommend it all the time, then I do apologise. So this is about a guy called Tom who has inherited an obsession from his father with a historical document, and this document is coded in several different languages and has basically baffled scholars and historians and mathematicians and scientists and whoever in the academic community for a good number of years. So Tom has a friend called Paul, and he is just as obsessed with Tom, and as you might expect, they crack or begin to crack the code, but then someone on their college campus is murdered and they realise that their lives are in danger, and they set off on a adventure to kind of uncover what exactly is going on. So this is kind of like a thriller murder mystery with a little bit of Italian Renaissance thrown in. It is very much like the Da Vinci Code, but it is a little bit more I think because it has quite a mathematical twist to it, that does make it a little bit different, and I'm probably not doing this book justice at all. Obviously, as with any book, it does have its flaws. I'm not saying that it is perfect, I'm not saying that it is mind-blowing, but if you have a Da Vinci Code size hole in your heart, then this book may just be the thing that fills it. Let me just quickly read what it says. At the very end on the back it says, working desperately to expose the book's secret, they slowly uncover a Renaissance tale of passion and blood, a hidden crypt, and a secret worth dying to protect. So I hope that I might have possibly piqued your interest with this book. But yeah, I possibly might want to reread it, but I kind of feel like when I've read a book and I've loved it so much, and it's not a series, it's just kind of standalone, do I want to read it again and potentially not as enjoy it as much? I don't know, but anyway, there you go. That is the rule of 4. So there you go, just a really quick video from me today highlighting some of the books which I think are great but which are possibly relatively unknown in the book community. Do leave me a comment, let me know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned today and what you thought. Also, let me know 1 or 2 books that you thought were great but you also think are perhaps relatively unknown or uncelebrated within the book community. I would love to know what they are. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. I hope that you are all safe and well. Take care, and I will see you soon.